Hey, 2024 hasn't been a particularly great year for Blackpool Pleasure Beach, and it's had quite a lot of criticism. I mean, I've posted a number of videos this season and many of you have said very similar things. But I'm going to look ahead to the future and be quite optimistic. In fact, there are a number of rumours floating around. So in this video, we are going to cover all of them. Right, so we're going to start with the obvious one. When you walk into the park, there is this big giant tower thing that, when I was there last week, is covered about 3/4 in scaffolding. Now, at the start of the season, Amanda did say that Ice Blast was waiting on a part and that it was not being removed, despite many rumours prior to the season starting saying otherwise. We've then seen it kind of left untouched for most of the season, and as I say, currently it has a ridiculous amount of scaffolding all the way around it. Now, the park has said nothing officially for any of the things we're going to talk about in this video, but the rumours floating around, and indeed I've heard this from staff when I've been on site, is that it is in fact staying. Now, there is still some question marks around what is happening. You know, is it literally just a new part, and will that part bring it back to its former glory? Because that ride in recent years hasn't been the most powerful shot tower. I mean, it's great views when you're up there, but you know, it's not been the best. So I do wonder if this part is just a part that had failed, or if it is actually a proper renovation and bringing it back to its former glory. Equally, there are some people questioning whether they're putting the scaffolding in to increase the height. I very much doubt that personally. I think people are clutching at straws with the unprecedented heights comment that was made by the park during this season. There's also some that are wondering if the new S&S spinning seats would be coming to the ride. I think that would be a lovely twist. But again, I suspect, based on some of the other things we're going to cover, that their focus here is just keeping this thing going to get ride availability back, because it's been pretty poor this season. So yeah, I think to start with, Ice Blast will be back next year, but I don't expect any significant changes, although I do hope that it gets a little bit more power than it's had recently. Now you move a little bit further into the park, and of course we have a ride that again operated, I think, for the first weekend this season, and then has been out of operation all season, again with very little, if any, communication from the park, and that is river caves. Now, many people have seen that things have been removed. You know, there's been drive tires removed, etc. Again, still nothing official from the park, but the rumours that are floating around, and again things I've heard firsthand from staff on site, is that there is a leak in the ride and they can't quite figure out where. Now, one of the things that's also been circulated as a possibility is that kind of final drop just outside, or at the entrance to the ride, may be removed, because they think that could be potentially where it is. So that would obviously mean that lift hill in the last section would be smaller, and then there'd be no drop at the end. Who knows? Also, when I was there last week, I did point out that it looked like there was some new, not animatronics, some new statue things on the Pleasure Beach Express. And some people did question if these had been removed from the river caves. Now again, I don't know if that is that they're taking this time whilst it is down to do some more work. It would be lovely to see. There was definitely a number of parts of this ride that were looking quite sad in recent years, and definitely could do with a little bit of renovation. Obviously, it's a ride that has been on site for many, many years, and it has changed over those years. You know, new scenes put in, updated scenes, etc. So I do expect this one to come back next year. I am curious though what changes we will see. Will that drop be removed? And will there be some new or improved or tidied up scenes inside? I certainly hope so, because it would be a shame if this has been closed for an entire season and all we get is a fix to a leak. So fingers crossed on this one. So another one that I reported on, and many others reported on a few months back, was that Ride Rater had spotted a loan for a Intamin gyro swing that the park had taken out. Now, curiously, that loan was satisfied only 3 days later, which my understanding is that means that loan's paid off. Now, I don't know if that means it was a very short-term loan or if the project was cancelled. Again, the current rumours still suggest this is happening, and yet again, from what I've heard on site, this does appear to be going in the old Bolodrome site. Now, when I was there last week, the Bolodrome is completely derelict now. It is locked, it is empty, there is nothing there. It's obviously been kind of getting cleared out for quite some time, and it had very, very little left, but that is now completely gone. So my expectation in the winter season is that we are going to see that building completely demolished, and fingers crossed they can get this gyro swing up and running for the start of the season. Flat rides typically don't take a huge amount of time to construct. I know if you look at Project Ocean over in Alton Towers, they said 15 weeks, but a lot of that was building the structure to then put this ride on. If you are just putting the ride on the ground, then you obviously need some foundations, but that is less intense. So I'm hoping that we start the season with a giant Intamin gyro swing. Now that just leaves one more thing, and I don't think we're going to see this for 2025, but it is worth covering nonetheless. And that is obviously that the Grand Prix was removed, and they've said a new attraction. Now, going back to what we've just said, I don't believe that gyro swing is going to go in the old Grand Prix site. I think it would be a complete waste if they did. And there is a lot of speculation right now that it is going to be a new coaster. Now, I've seen various rumours floating around, some people saying that they work on the site, work on the park, and that it's a B&M dive coaster. I mean, I'd like to see something like that personally. I'd like a nice big thrilling coaster, but the rumour that's getting the most traction at the moment is that it is simply a family attraction, so a family coaster. Now again, nothing has been said so far about who the manufacturer is going to be. The park has in the past talked to and worked with many manufacturers, and three notable ones would be Intamin, Mack and Vekoma. Now if we look at each of those, I think Intamin, there's many people hoping that we would get a single rail, like a hot racer type ride. I think that would be fantastic. There aren't any of those in the UK, so to get one of those would be fantastic, and I think it would fit quite well into that area. Definitely a family attraction. Obviously you've got the RMC single rail as well, although I don't think RMC is a likely candidate. They're putting in a couple of single rails over in Wallaby Holland right now, and interestingly they've got a mix of thrill and family that kind of sort of race against each other. It would be lovely to see some sort of racing element, although Blackpool does have that in a few places. You've obviously got Grand National, you've got Steeplechase, so you know, maybe the racing element would be overdone in Pleasure Beach, but you know, I think an Intamin single rail would be a fantastic option. Next one we've got is of course Mack. Now the park has a very, very strong relationship with the Mack family. They obviously put in Icon a few years back. You know, Amanda has been seen talking to them numerous times. She was on podcasts with Michael Mack, etc. So I think there's a decent chance of this, and much though many of us would love an extreme spinning coaster, again, if we're going family, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm curious what family ride we would get from Mack. I kind of hope it's not just a powered coaster. That would be a little bit of a letdown, but you never know. So that is also a possibility. And then the last one I've got is Vekoma. Now there's a couple of Vekoma options. I mean, there's a boomerang, but then that is done to death in so many parks. So, you know, I don't think it certainly wouldn't be a crowd pleaser. Like, it wouldn't draw people in to get on a Vekoma boomerang, because, I mean, there's plenty of those in the UK and indeed elsewhere. There is the Vekoma STC. So, I mean, I was in Emerald Park a few weeks ago and I got on Fianna Force, and it is fantastic. And it would be great to see something like that in Pleasure Beach. But I don't think putting it where Grand Prix is makes sense, because it's kind of a modern, smoother family version of Infusion, and I can't see them having those two rides in the park at the same time. So definitely rumours are that we are getting a new coaster and that it is going to be more family friendly rather than thrill based, but I still suspect we're a couple of years off seeing that. Although, you know, it does take a few years to build these rides, so we may hear something and start seeing some ground markings and footers in the near future. And the last thing that, again, I'm not hearing rumours per se, but I think the one thing that we're all hoping for is for them to review their pricing structure. Now, it was interesting when they brought out the season passes for next year. Obviously the price had hiked up quite a bit, and they then sort of dropped it down a little bit, and then they did the flash sale and stuff. It does worry me that we're maybe going to see an increase in the gate price, and it is already quite steep and putting a lot of people off. There is the possibility though that they will consider bringing back the non-rider. Now, for a long time I was against this because, like, I just think the scanners are the problem, and therefore if everybody can ride everything, you don't need the scanners. They've clearly stuck with those scanners for a reason, and in fact on my recent visit, most of the attractions now have little handheld scanners as well, so that, you know, if there's any challenges, the staff can just get in there and do it a lot quicker. So if they're investing in those scanners, and let's be fair, those scanners are kind of pointless when everybody is eligible to ride every single attraction, it does start to make you think, Are they softening their views here? Could we go back to a non-rider ticket? Could we go back to pay per ride? And I've said that in other videos as well. There are plenty parks that do pay per ride in a modern way, where you get like a little top-up card and you put credits on it, and then again you scan that on the attractions and it decrements your balance. So I'd love to see some improvements there as well next year. But certainly hasn't been the best year for Blackpool, but I am hopeful, I am keeping my fingers crossed that there are some light at the end of the tunnel, shall we say, and that we are about to turn a corner, because as I've said many times before, it is a park that I hold very dear, and I know many of you do as well, and it's sad to see it kind of starting to decline, so I really do hope it's on the up in the near future. Anyway, I'd love to know your thoughts on all of these things. If you have enjoyed this one, hit that like button and consider subscribing. Super close to 5k, and I am on the way to 10k, so thank you very much everyone for your support. I've been Chris, you've been watching Coaster Dad, and I shall see you in the next one. Adios.